Welcome back, everybody, to episode 9 of the Unprofessional Sports Experts Podcast. Fuck off, Sean. Today we got a pretty awesome show. Obviously, we're going to recap the championship weekend that was a pretty good one. Got a couple questions for Sean that are, honestly, they're pretty controversial, but I'm excited to hear his take on it. We're going to talk about the Jets and kind of their future, and then we will also talk about our unprofessional moment of the week. So, Sean, we'll get the intro going. We'll get going. Beautiful.
Took a minute.
Beautiful. Okay, before we go any further, I have some breaking news that I want to share.
Oh?
It has been reported to NFL teams the salary cap is $224 million for this upcoming season, which is an increase of almost $20 million from this last season.
I was just looking at that, and I was going to mention that this is the, fourth straight year it's now increased?
Oh, it's going to...
You're really loud today.
Fucking hyped, man.
I can tell. You're, like, screaming. I've had to turn you down, like, 3 times in the audio because you're redlining. I'm like, oh, man. Everyone's going to have to turn on the volume for you.
So... I think this is the second straight year, because if you're not going to count COVID, because technically it declined in COVID year, it's increased. And it's only going to keep increasing because of all these deals that the film and production companies keep making with the NFL. So,
yeah, no, it's going to absolutely keep increasing.
Oh, yeah, good news for you guys.
I love it. We already have the most cap space in the NFL. Now you're adding an extra almost $20 million. It's like actually, 18 million or something like that? Basically $20 million a year adding onto our cap space. Actually, right here, top 10 cap spaces currently. This is after the increase. The Bears are number 1 with 91.8 million. Falcons 56.4 million. Giants 44.7. Bengals 43.7, which is absolutely huge for the Bengals, being the fact that they just went to the AFC Championship game. Texans 39.2 million. Patriots 32.6. Seahawks 31. Ravens 26.8. Raiders 22. 49ers 16.3. And that is your top 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's your top 10 in terms of cap space, as it stands now.
Yeah.
That was as of 20 minutes ago. After the update came out 30 minutes ago, that would be happening.
Yeah, insane, man.
The fact that the Bears...
you guys are going to be on a fucking spending spree, dude.
I sure hope so. But, I hope it is quality spending, if that makes sense. I'd rather...
no, it makes sense.
And ISA, having almost double second place, love that feeling. I love that feeling. If there's someone we want, I hate to say overpay, but if there's a player that we love, we could almost overpay him and it doesn't even matter. We could... Yeah. Especially, you know what I really love? Joey Bosa's contract's up.
Ooh. Interesting.
I know the 49ers have $16.3 million in cap space, and they're obviously not going to be bringing Jimmy G back at this point. I think it's almost confirmed at this point that Jimmy G is not coming back to San Fran.
You talking about... You said Joey. Do you mean Nick?
Yeah, Nick. Sorry. Ron Bosa.
Which brings me to... I'm going to ask you a question. I saw Joey Bosa... He had a reaction to this game this past weekend, and he didn't seem too happy with the quarterback situation. So, is he going to want to come back, you think?
Joey?
Or do you think he
or Nick?
Yeah. Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa, he had made a comment about how the quarterback situation, like he didn't have a quarterback for that game and stuff like that.
I mean, he wasn't the only one that made that comment. I believe also George Kittle made the same comment, talking about actually I have it right here. How does it feel to lose the NFC Championship because I don't have a quarterback? Pretty shitty, to be honest. Yeah, that's about it. And you can't blame them. They just lost an absolutely massive game, and I guess it's kind of we'll roll this right into our recap here. They just lost an absolutely massive game, and these questions are coming out, only a couple, not even hours after the game. So all these guys are emotional. They're all, upset and whatnot. So a lot of times they're gonna say things that are gonna kind of get redacted almost because they're just in an emotional state. I didn't see anything about Nick Bosa saying that, but Joey Bosa, not Joey Bosa, rather. Sorry, I didn't see anything about Joey. Which one? Joey Bosa? Nick? Yeah. What? I get confused. One's on the Chargers, one's on the 49ers. It's confusing. Same conference, right? No, AFC, NFC. Never mind.
No, not even the same conference.
Never mind. All right. Sometimes the Bosas and the Watts, they confuse me.
They're both in the West, if that makes you feel better.
That does make me. They're in the same. They're in the same state. That makes it even better for me. Anyway, George Kittle being frustrated. I almost kind of like that. Listen, I hate to say it. George Kittle, there's a possibility he could end up getting moved, especially if he really is frustrated. And do you know what George Kittle grew up as? Like fan base wise?
Do you grow up a Bears fan?
He grew up a Bears fan.
Ah, okay.
Could you imagine a George Kittle with Cole Kmet? Cole Kmet kind of had an outbreaking year this year.
That could be something.
That could be something there. That could be something. And then you could also bring in, good old Nicky boy. Come on now.
I think a Bosa brother reunion on the same team would be pretty good for you guys. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think Joey and Nick are both coming, but we can get Nick and Kittle.
Hey.
If we get Nick and Kittle, like I'm just throwing random stuff at the wall right now and see what sticks. If we get Nick, Kittle, we trade down to number 4 with you guys, and we still get like Will Anderson or even the defensive tackle. Oh my goodness! Could you imagine that?
Y'all looking pretty, Yeah, y'all look pretty.
All
right, enough of talking about the fucking Chicago Bears. We're gonna be recapping the game. So obviously, NFC Championship game was yesterday. Philadelphia steamrolled the 49ers 31-7, due in part to some major injuries in the
I think that's
Niners
more than
side.
in part. That was absolutely critical.
Yeah. Obviously, Brock Purdy gets injured early in the game. Barely
drive.
held on to the football afterward, yeah.
Yeah.
And they had their backup in Josh Johnson,
Who's
who
actually-
also went out with a concussion. And it's all downhill from there, man. It was
downhill from the very beginning. The 49ers were already going in with a third-string quarterback, but everyone's been praising Brock Purdy, and I was one of them, absolutely. And I still think Brock Purdy, with what he could do, he did well. He still was 4 for 4 on completions through attempts. Like he completed all 4 attempts he threw, 23 yards. So obviously it's not what you want, but when you go down on the first drive, it's hard to try and get that spark going. George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey, they were in there trying to get everyone rallied up and going, but it was hard, and it got hard to watch even, especially after Josh Johnson went down. It was extremely hard to watch, and I think
because Brock Purdy couldn't even throw the ball 5 yards down the field.
No, it was.
I think he tried one pass attempt, and
it was just wobbly.
It was just wobbly. Like you were almost better having like CMC or
which
even
was in the
fullback.
conversation.
Yeah, it was, and even their fullback was in the conversation too of being
Kyle
the quarterback. If one of them two are in, they would have stood a better chance than having an injured Brock Purdy who can't even throw the ball.
Yeah.
Like
because
that tells
they knew that Brock Purdy wasn't going to throw the ball, so they knew they were going to run it. And so the same thing can be said if you put in CMC or Kyle Juszczyk there. They're going to run it, or they're going to do some sort of weird wildcat sort of check down, screenplay, something like that. But, the 49ers were in a terrible position. Believe it or not, one thing that I will give them credit for, they were in that game until the final, 3 minutes of the second quarter? If I'm roughly about there, because at that point it was still 7-7, which was absolutely insane.
7-7 going into the second.
No, it was 7-7 going into almost, because the 49ers didn't score until the second quarter.
Yeah.
So it was probably the last 5 minutes or so, and then 49ers took a long drive, and then a interception, if I'm not mistaken. It was an interception or fumble, one of the two happens, and then the 49ers score, or the Eagles scored yet again in almost within like a 3-minute span.
And then going into the third quarter, it was already 21-7.
Yeah, at that point you started losing it, and then you give up another touchdown early, and then the field goal late. It's absolutely crippling for them. But I mean, I will give them props. They were in that game for most of it until they weren't, and when they weren't, it got ugly, and then it got ugly quick, and it stayed ugly. Yeah, you want to talk about ugly? Only 164 yards of total offense for the Niners. 81 of that being rushing. 83 actually was passing, believe it or not. Time of possession only 22 minutes to 37. It got ugly, and I kind of thank the Eagles in a way for running the ball as much as they did, just because
they made the game go by fast. Then.
They did.
And they realized, this team is crippled. They can't do anything. Let's just run the ball and we'll get this game done and over with.
Yeah, it was very sort of a class act. And I do not like the Eagles. All right, we'll talk about this later on in a week or two when we actually get closer to the Super Bowl and actually give our predictions. But I'm at the point where I don't want either one of these teams to win. If we could have neither one of these teams win, I would like to know how, and that's how I would like the game to end.
Yeah, there's not really much to say about the Eagles. They they faced an offense that had no quarterback. They didn't have a challenge. It was
Yeah,
probably the easiest game, one of the easiest games of their season, and it came in the fact that it was the NFC Championship game. They just got lucky at the right time, I guess.
yeah. Speaking of the 49ers, since we're on this, I'm going to read off some of their key free agents we were kind of talking about earlier. They have offensive tackle Mike McGilly, quarterback Jimmy G, safety Jimmy Ward, who I think is going to get absolutely paid this year. He had an incredible year. Defensive end Charles I hate saying his name. Charles Amanua, offensive like Jake Brenderlow, Robbie Gould, kicker. Deshaun Gibson, kicker or safety, defensive end Kerry Hyder, defensive end Samson Ibukam, a guard and a corner in Mosley. So they got some pretty key free agents coming up. I think the biggest one being that offensive tackle and Jimmy Ward. Those are two guys you're going to want to try and bring back. Especially, like I said, Jimmy Ward had an incredible year on a contract year, so you know he's going to be begging to get paid, and he's probably going to get paid.
Yeah, it's the 49ers are going to have an interesting offseason. They've got, like I said, a lot of key free agents, and they have to figure out who their quarterback's going to be.
Yeah, they've got a lot of questions. One of the
other big things.
Yeah.
So, well, I mean, not much else to say about this game, so we'll move on to the Chiefs-Bengals game. Down to the wire, I don't know. We both predicted it was going to be a close game. You know, last team to have possession is going to win the game, which ultimately was the Kansas City Chiefs.
And yet again, it was divided. Yet again, it was decided by a field goal at the very last second.
Yeah. Very questionable officiating during that game. There were some calls that maybe shouldn't have been called.
It was very interesting. You know, that last play, there was that last couple drives where I was very starting to get frustrated. That kick return that the 49ers had that actually turned out to be a pretty decent one should have been redacted. You can literally see in the replay of it, there was an illegal block in the back at the 45-yard line. If you don't believe me, go watch it. The man literally was shoved in the back and fell down. The ref was right in front of him, didn't call it. On that last play where Patrick Mahomes was shoved out of bounds, do I believe that was unnecessary roughness? Yes, it was just a little bit late. On the same point, there was 3 holdings that never got called. There was you can go back and right before Patrick Mahomes scrambles out, there's 3 guys at 3 different places all being held very clearly right in front of the ref that yet again should have been called, should have been offsetting penalties and replay the third down. You know, there was a lot of questionable calls. I don't agree with the PI that was late in the game. There was just It very much seemed like the refs were trying to give them the game. Now, don't get me wrong. Bengals had their opportunity to win this game. They absolutely had their opportunities, and they just couldn't capitalize on them. And so even the head coach said that. So you can't completely blame the refs, even though it did look very bad late in the game.
Yeah, another thing that you can blame the Bengals loss on, Joe Burrow had 2 interceptions, which
I believe one of them was tipped, though, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, one of them was that tipped one.
So yeah, it's still a tip, Pat. You can't put it on Joe Burrow, but we need
more stat lines. I know I always say stop being a nerd, but at the same time, we need more stat lines where you can talk about, you know, past interceptions that were receivers' faults or interceptions that weren't their fault.
No, I 100% agree with that. But then, honestly, another thing that kind of killed the Bengals, they didn't run the ball that much.
They couldn't.
They really didn't.
Yeah, I think they were behind most of that game until
they were in that game the entire.
They were in it. Oh,
they were never down 2.
Oh, is he okay? Hold on, we might be losing Jeremy here. He's a little frozen. No, I get what you're saying.
There we go.
He's losing quality now. Oh man,
Hold on.
I don't know what you're downloading over there, but is he good? Hello.
I think we're good.
All right, stop downloading porn. All right, let's go.
Hey man, I'm sorry. So, yeah,
they were in the game. They
didn't really get the running game,
but they were behind almost the entire game. They were tied a couple times, but they never had a lead, if I'm not mistaken.
They never had a lead, but doesn't mean they weren't out completely. They were still within 1 possession.
Yeah, and I get, you know, you got to be able to do both against this team, but you know they were very much so trying to get that passing game going, which was working. You know, I'll say it's the 4th down play they had, where they just had Chase run out, do a little zag, and keep going, was an incredible play. Incredible catch. I didn't actually think they were going to snap the ball. But yeah, absolutely incredibly close game. You know, the refs definitely looked like they helped the Chiefs, but like I said, the Bengals had all the opportunity in the world to try and win that game, especially late. I thought they were going to pull it out. I was like, sweet, final drive, here we go, run the clock, and of course, you get the ball to Mahomes with 30 seconds left, and things happen.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate.
Not the best.
Like I said, I don't want either one of these teams to win at this point. I don't like the Philly fan base, and even some of the Phillies players I'm not a huge fan of.
You cannot look at the offensive line. Like, the offensive line for the Bengals allowed 5 sacks.
4 of those in the first half.
Yeah,
three of them in 3 straight snaps.
Mm-hmm.
And like you can look at that and you can credit that, but at the same time, they cleaned that up real quick. After those 3 straight snaps, they cleaned it up. They had one more snap in the first half, and then only one sack. I keep saying snap. Only 1 sack allowed in the second half. You cleaned that up real well. I mean, you can't really blame them. Like, 5 sacks is a lot. Don't get me wrong, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Kansas City was also sacked quite a few times.
They sacked Mahomes 3 times, so they got to him a little bit, but not. Yeah.
And not as much they had a lot of pressure on him too, especially coming late down that fourth quarter. They had a lot of pressure on him. Even turnovers was 1-2, so it was an incredibly close game all the way down. Kansas City had a fumble lost late in the game, if I'm not mistaken. Or no, that was at that halftime, right at the turning point. I remember texting Jeremy at halftime saying, "This feels familiar." Every time we've seen this Kansas City Chiefs versus the Bengals, that first half always kind of gets owned by the Chiefs, but right before halftime, Kansas City always goes down and finds a way to kind of shift momentum, and then they get back into that game right after half, and then it comes down to the wire. Like, it's been like this every single time, and this is the only time we've had the opposite outcome happen. But yeah, and all week we kind of heard Burrowhead. I was one of them saying Burrowhead. You also heard him saying, like, in order for it to be a rivalry, you have to win one. Well, now Kansas City's done that, so I think it is a rivalry. I think they have to keep winning, though. Otherwise, it becomes a Patriots-Colts rivalry where it's actually not a rivalry. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's about it. I mean, Chiefs, they played their cards. They did all the right things they needed to do. I mean, did they get a little help from the refs? Maybe, but it's we can't be for certain about that. It's
I mean, yeah.
Is it NFL rigged? Who knows?
Like, listen, Travis Kelce said it earlier, actually a couple weeks ago. You couldn't have wrote a script better because him and his brother started this podcast this year with New Ice, and now they're both in the Super Bowl. You can't write a better script than that. So it does look a little fishy on him, but I don't think there's actually a rig to the NFL. Not yet. If next year, if it looks fishy again, I might say, you know what, there's a rig. But some key free agents for the Bengals, since I mentioned the 49ers, you have safety Jesse Bates, safety Von Bell, tight end Hayden Hurst, corner Eli Apple, burnt apples, linebacker Jeremiah Pratt, running back Samaje Pernier, whatever you say his name, tight end Drew Sample, and cornerback Trey Flowers. Projected at $44 million under salary cap, but also budgeting for Joe Burrow. So,
they got a lot of pretty key
defensive sides
players. Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting. Hayden Hurst also kind of emerged onto the scene, especially in the playoffs, as a huge tight end for Joe Burrow. So I can imagine them wanting to try to bring him back, especially since he became a Burrow target. But yeah, so some key ones there for him. All right. Well, you've got some stats and some questions for me. Throw them at me.
So I want to start out with a stat that I had seen. It's about the most passing touchdowns in NFC AFC Championship history. Mm-hmm. So leading the pack, obviously in first place, is Tom Brady with 21. Do you know who's the next one?
Patrick Mahomes. I saw the stat on
Patrick Mahomes with 14.
Yeah,
in only 5 games.
Yeah,
versus Tom Brady's 14.
Yeah. He's gonna pass him. Like.
That is insane to me. So, my first question to you is, if Mahomes wins this Super Bowl and retires, is he in a Hall of Fame?
Yeah. I think because you got to think, I think Colin Cowherd talked about it earlier in the week or a couple weeks ago. There is a very select few quarterbacks who have ever won 2 NFL Super Bowls.
Yeah.
And so, when you put him on that list, I think we're both looking up. Two Super Bowls. And when you put him on that list, it's a very elite list.
Yeah, 2 Mannings, a Brady, Elway,
Bradshaw, Montana,
Very, very few, and it's those top tier, best of the best names too.
Yeah. So when you're talking like that, you gotta at least put him in the conversation. He's breaking stats. He holds the NFL record for most passing yards in a single, all-purpose yards in a single season. Rather, I think if he retires right now, he absolutely is in the Hall of Fame. And he's one of the very few that you can say that.
Follow up, first round or first ballot?
Yeah. Why
You
not?
think first ballot?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Like absolutely.
So next question.
Yeah.
So, in the span of 5 years, oh, my dog's trying to jump on my lap. So in the span of the 5 years Mahomes has been in the NFL, he has one Super Bowl win, possibly two, possibly about to win a second MVP, 5 straight AFC Championship appearances.
Yep.
Is this 5 year span better than any quarterback has ever, any player has ever had in NFL history? That's a tough question, isn't it?
The best.
You really have to think about it.
By any quarterback, by any player, or any quarterback.
Any, I guess we'll do any quarterback just because you can't really say any player because obviously different positions, different stats, blah 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 blah.
I'm gonna say no, just because I think. Don't get me wrong, 5 is impressive, but you got to think Tom Brady won the Super Bowl in 2002, 2004, 2005. Then he won again. They won the Super Bowl in 2005, 2007, 2015, 2017, 2019, and then again in 21. So of the 7 rings he's won, 3 of them were in a 3-year span. 2 of them were back to back, and then he's won 4 within a 6-year period. So, as impressive as it is, making it to the AFC Championship 5 times is awesome. Making it to the Super Bowl, this is his 3rd Super Bowl appearance. He's won it once. He's on, could be knocking on number 2. 2 MVPs. I still think Brady had that better 5 years, and I'm sure there's more out there that have had incredible 5 years, especially if you go way back to the early stats of the NFL, where there was only 6 teams in the NFL or something like that. I'm sure there are great players that have had 5 straight years that were absolutely incredible, but I think Brady has still done it better. I think, that's kind of where I stand. I think Brady has done it. He's done it more, and like I said, 4 rings in 6 years is absolutely incredible. Doing 3 rings in 5 years, especially when he was very young on that first one he won, and then doing 2 of them back to back, again, absolutely incredible, almost unheard of. And going back to back is already unheard of, but winning back to back is even more incredible. So, do I think it's been an incredible 5 years? Absolutely. This is a dynasty team in my mind. Especially if they win this year, this is a dynasty-like team. But I don't think it's the best 5-year period we've seen by a single player.
Okay. I can respect that answer.
Yeah, I mean,
I can respect
there's
it.
a reason why he's the baby goat and not the goat.
You think he's gonna be the GOAT by the end of his career? You think he could steal that mantle?
I think he could. I think absolutely.
You think so?
I think he absolutely could. Like I said, if he wins this Super Bowl, you're already putting him in elite. You're putting him with the elite talents of the NFL in the quarterback position, and the fact that he's only 27, if he can have longevity. Now, longevity is probably going to be the only thing that might stop him, just because when you have players who are Hall of Famers and are potential GOATs. You talk about. Unfortunately, you talk about Rodgers, you talk about Brady, you talk about Manning. They weren't those mobile quarterbacks, so they were in the league for a long time. We see a lot of these mobile quarterbacks getting more hurt, so the question of longevity is going to be the biggest factor, I think. I think if he can play like an 18 seasons, I think absolutely he can pass Brady. I think it's.
So to be fair, Mahomes isn't. I'm not gonna.
He's not a mobile first
quarterback. He has the ability to. He obviously wants to use his arm first and get the passes down.
Now he
but
does.
Whenever in the crunch time, because whenever he was first brought in his first 2 seasons,
he was a
mobile
first
quarterback. Yeah. He ran first the ball, and then I think it was the Super Bowl when he was just being
absolutely
obliterated by Tampa Bay's defense. That's when he switched over and he realized, hey, I can't be a mobile first quarterback. I have to sit in my pocket, look at my reads first, and then if nothing's there, then take off.
Which is absolutely incredible. That's exactly how you want your quarterback to be. You want him to make his reads, or when pressure gets on him, you have to move. But those first 3 years, we're going to see, I guess, this new wave of quarterbacks that we've seen that really kind of started with Mahomes and Lamar. We're going to see how much longevity they're going to have, and that's going to be crucial on the fact of if any of them become GOAT or GOAT-like level players.
Yep.
So, excuse me. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's going to make a huge factor. But like those first 3 years, we're going to see, does that have much of an effect, or is it these later years with him calming down, staying in the pocket, will that have a better effect on him? But yeah, that's I definitely could see him passing Brady. It's just a question of the longevity of if he can do it.
Time out, man.
What do you got?
Look at my fucking dog. He's just chilling here next to me, like standing up on two legs, man.
What up, Clark? Mama not home to give you treats. Yeah, Mama's not home to give you love, so you gotta attack Daddy. I get it.
Right. All right. So moving on. Do you have any? Well, you had a question for me.
I do have a question for you. All right. So this was
right.
proposed on a podcast that I listened to. I've mentioned it a few times. The New Heights podcast with the Kelsey brothers. First off, I want to say congratulations to both Kelsey brothers for making it to the Super Bowl. I believe Jason right after the game said, "Well, I'm not a Kansas City Chiefs fan for the next couple weeks." So congrats to both of them, Mama Kelsey and Dada Kelsey. I hope you guys figure out which son you're rooting for. You'll probably be happy for both sons no matter what. But absolutely, congratulations to both those. I think this is one of the very few times it's ever happened, if I'm not mistaken, where brothers are facing each other in the Super Bowl.
Very first time player brothers have faced. The only other time I think is the Harbaugh's Bowl.
So first, this is absolutely incredible. Both of them outstanding players. You know, they both deserve all the praise in the world. You know, Travis Kelce, the best tight end in the league, and Jason Kelce, one of the longest running centers and one of the best centers, especially, you know, being the guy that does those QB sneaks, you know, 92% of the time. It works every time. But my question to you is proposed to them: if you could remove any one NFL rule and replace it with another NFL rule, what would it be? So you can remove any rule. You know, there's no limitations on it, and you can add any rule. What would it be?
Damn.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
I actually saw the TikTok clip of, I think it was Jason Kelce, his rule proposal, and I think I'm gonna have to say the same thing. Adding one fight per game.
That was Travis. Travis.
Travis. I fucking love that rule.
Yeah.
Like, if it's in hockey, like, they're padded up, man.
Yeah.
Who really cares? Like, it's not gonna do him any damage. People in hockey do it all the time. Give him one fight per game, and give him. I don't even know if you could, like, what penalty could you just do? A 15-yard penalty or something?
I mean, it'd be offsetting penalties because both players are fighting.
I guess it would be offsetting.
Yeah. That's how I would run it. I would run it as offsetting penalties. Replay it down.
Yeah, like, that'd be so much fun. That'd be so entertaining as well.
And it always gives a spark too. If you ever watch hockey, it always gives a spark to the.
Oh yeah, the crowd loves that shit.
Oh yeah, absolutely they do. What is going on?
As far as the rule taking away, it's a hard one. Like, you know, you could always say, "Oh, I want to get rid of pass interference." Maybe I would modify pass interference to make it the 15-yard, like in college, instead of it being a spot foul. Because I think it being a spot foul is, I think it's way too much. It bails out teams way too often. You know, they're at their own 45-yard line and they chuck it downfield at the 5-yard line. Pass interference, spot of the foul. It's a 50-yard gain right there, just off of a penalty.
Yeah,
and they go and score, win the game. I think that's. You know, you could say, oh, play better defense, you know, don't cause pass interference and shit, but, like, make it a 15-yard penalty. Automatic first down. I think that's plenty.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. You know, it's one of those things, like, there are different rules between college and the NFL that some of them might like college more, some of them might like the NFL rule more. Like, I like, for college level, I love only 1 foot in bounds. For NFL level, absolutely, I love 2 foot in bounds. It just shows an advancement in between the plays. But no, I agree. I like those. I like getting rid of the, I like changing the offensive pass interference or defensive pass interference, and I like adding in the fights thing. I think that's fun.
Yeah, I think the only fouls that should be spot fouls are like a personal foul for maybe like a face masking or maybe like a horse collar tackle, just because those affect player safety, or maybe
horse
even
collar
like
tackle. Man, I haven't heard that penalty called in a long time.
I know I haven't heard a horse collar tackle in a long time.
You don't see the players with the big pads on the back anymore. You don't see that anymore.
Yeah. Or maybe like a helmet to helmet, you know, down the field. Those are the only plays I think should warrant a spot penalty. But looks like Sean's.
I'm reading something. I saw an NFL rumor thing, and I just wanted to make sure it wasn't anything great. It was about Kaepernick's playoff jersey selling for $40,000.
The fuck?
Yeah,
random
from 2013. I just hit the auction block, and I guess it's expected to sell for $40K according to TMZ.
That is a really random thing, honestly.
Yeah. I'm gonna throw my what I would like to remove. I want to remove the overtime rules from playoffs that they added. I hate them. I know we
To
haven't
be
seen
fair,
them.
though, we haven't seen them.
Yeah, I know. I already hate it though. Listen, part of the thing is I get you. I get what you're saying of like, well, both teams should get the yeah, whatever, but then it's just gonna keep going on. Like at some point, it's just gonna keep going on, and you're gonna be like, well, my team didn't get to touch the ball for they got a touchdown, and then we got a touchdown, but then they got a touchdown, the game over. Why can't I respond again? No. If you want to do it that way, you do it by the college rules. That's how I see it.
I think a lot of people would rather see it as the college rules, where it's just like a shootout actually, and not those. I would think that would be the only exception that I would like.
Yeah,
but
that's the only that's what I would add. Is if you're gonna take it away, I would remove and then do the college rules. The college rules are it's a lot. Don't get me wrong, but it's basically at the end of regulation. What happens is both teams possess the ball at the 20-yard line, and obviously you have first and 10, second and 10, third and 10, fourth and 10, and then you have opportunities to get a touchdown. If you get a touchdown, then the other team gets a touchdown, then they move the ball forward more. It's a very that's the most even way to do it if you want to do it in an even way. Otherwise, and I hate it. I hate it. That's about all there is to it.
That's fair enough. I can respect that.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, moving on to, we're gonna talk about the Jets here. They're in an interesting place.
They are. We mentioned it briefly with
we have
a couple times, so we kind of teased on it. And maybe we need to get on these a little bit sooner when these are actually hot topics and being talked about more. But we talked about Zach Wilson was supposedly a toxic in the locker room. He was showing up late. He wasn't focused. He was messing around this and that, and it seemed like it was a real bad look on Zach Wilson. And then multiple sources came out contradicting that source and said, no, he's not like that. He's the first one in. He's a hard worker. He's this, he's that. And so it was like, okay, well, maybe this isn't Zach Wilson. And then the head coach comes out a few days ago and says, hey, we will be looking for a veteran quarterback in this offseason. Maybe Jimmy G goes to the Jets. Maybe Tom Brady goes to the Jets. Maybe, so there, because everyone always says, quarterback away. Denver was the big one, and now it's the Jets are the big one. So they're in a very interesting place because I'm not sure if they're quite ready to move on from Zach Wilson, especially since they have that young contract on him, that rookie contract still. But it does seem like it seems like the Zach Wilson experiment might not have worked out that well.
not as much as they hoped. I think one of the biggest things that affected Zach Wilson, he didn't really have a big veteran presence in the quarterback room. He had Joe Flacco.
Hold on, Joe Flacco. What? What do you mean?
He had Joe Flacco, but
I know he came in late, but the man's he's 38 years old.
I know he had Joe Flacco as his veteran presence, but did it really work too much?
I mean, yeah, Joe. I think that's kind of what they tried to bring Joe Flacco in, was to be that veteran presence.
Yeah, but obviously it didn't work out too well.
Yeah, but there was a whole bunch.
Zach Wilson still had the locker room divided.
Yeah,
that's not, especially being in the quarterback position. You're supposed to be the one that's supposed to hold the offense and the defense. You're supposed to be that person that brings everybody together.
Although
he just didn't seem he had that it factor.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying there, but I think it's also hard. When you've got fans, calling for a change at this position or at that position, and when you've got people screaming Mike White and wearing Mike White jerseys. I couldn't think of his name. I had to Google it real fast. When wearing those jerseys, it makes it hard to try and keep the locker room together and united. And so that's another question you have to bring in is, do you keep Mike White? Does Mike White stay and be the quarterback? Or are you looking for something else? Because, they talked about wanting that veteran presence. Well, you got Joe Flacco. I know Joe Flacco isn't the most amazing quarterback in the league, but, I mean, the guy's done it for 15 years. He's been in the league 15 years,
Yeah.
I mean,
so the Jets' options at quarterback. They're going to be Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, Jimmy G. I guess you can throw in there. Derek Carr, technically.
Yeah.
If you really want to go that route.
Yeah, Derek Carr.
They've got quite a few options.
Mm-hmm.
If you want, you got a couple different outcomes. If you're gonna go with either Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, that's a win now. Either this year, even calling next year is a bit of a stretch because we don't know what Tom Brady's going to be like next year, like the year after, and even Rodgers, you know.
Yeah, you got Rodgers in there. I don't know if you mentioned him already or not. I wasn't.
I
Exactly listening.
did.
I was
But
like
like,
a stack. That wasn't exactly listening.
yeah, like you bring in Aaron Rodgers, yeah, he might. You don't really know because he kind of struggled a bit this year in the early, but then kind of clicked towards the later end of the season. You bring in Lamar Jackson.
That changes all the scheme and everything.
It does, because now you've got a proven quarterback who's won an MVP into your system, but coming off the MCL and stuff like that, and will you be willing to pay Lamar Jackson what he wants?
And the question is, was Lamar really injured, or did he bench himself?
That's the other thing.
Because he wanted to say "screw you" to the Ravens and say, you need me, and let me show you need me. It's playoff time, and you need me out there. You don't want to pay me.
Yeah.
Oh well. Did we talk about the proposed contract to Lamar on this podcast, or did we just?
I think we mentioned it. It was like $130 million or something.
$133 million.
Yeah, that's from Lamar. That's a joke to me. Like that's
not terrible though.
That's disrespectful.
You gotta think Mahomes is $144 million. You're only talking $11 million less, and he's not Mahomes.
Yeah, but Mahomes got paid 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Now you had Deshaun Watson, who got paid the $240-something million fully guaranteed.
Yeah, that's
in his same division. Yeah, like he's gonna want a deal.
No one's giving that deal.
To that. Yeah, but nobody's gonna give that deal because that's just a shit ton of money.
That's a stupid deal that the Browns probably should have never made, but they were all in on this guy, and we'll see next year more likely how it's gonna play out more than this year. But I've got a little question I want to propose to you.
Shoot it. Let's go.
Joe Flacco, Hall of Fame or no? If you want some career stats, he's got a 61.6 completion percentage, 42,320 yards. Let's see, what is this? His longest in his entire career was 95 yards. He's thrown 232 touchdowns to 147 interceptions. Yeah, his QB rating throughout his entire career is 84.
No.
No?
I don't think so. He's got the one Super Bowl, yeah. But outside of that, he's one of those quarterbacks that's just been in the league long, and being in the league, it's the NFL Hall of Fame is a lot different than other sports Hall of Fames. Like I'm not saying the NFL's Hall of Fame's like you've been in the league a long time, here you go, here's your Hall of Fame. Not MLB. It is hard to get in the MLB Hall of Fame. Like, it is very hard.
Mm.
I don't think Joe Flacco has the rap sheet to be in the Hall of Fame.
Okay, now I got a proposed question to you. So he's been in the league since 2008, and in 2019 was his first year with Denver, where he played 8 games and then 5 games with the Jets, 2 games with the Jets, 5 games with the Jets. And if you take out those last 4 years, he is at 38,000 passing yards. So he's only thrown 4,000 passing yards over the last 4 seasons. However, like I said, he's played 8, 5, 2, 5. Where the man averages, I mean, his average for his career for passing yards is 6.7 yards per attempt.
I still don't think so.
You still don't think so?
No.
He's one of those guys that's a very fringe guy, I think. I think he's definitely not one of those guys that'll be a first ballot. But he could be I think he can sneak in. If he gets a weaker sort of Hall of Fame class, I think he's one of those guys that can sneak in. Just because, like I said, he's one of those fringe guys.
I don't think so.
You can't ignore the Super Bowl. You can't ignore the win in the Super Bowl.
I know, but I don't think a Super Bowl should be your determining factor of getting in the Hall of Fame.
I'm saying that's the little thing that puts him over the edge. You know, like I said,
yeah.
Touchdowns to INTs was 232 to 147, so almost 100 more passing touchdowns than he's thrown INTs. You know, so it's like a 2-to-1 ratio. That's a pretty good ratio. He's got the yards per attempt. He's over 40,000 passing yards. 61% completion percentage. That's about average. So, like, there's stats that you look at that are average, and there's stats that you look at that are a little bit above average.
So, I'll propose this to you. Mm-hmm. So, I'm going to compare the two quarterbacks that came out of the 2008 draft class. Do you know who
Matt Ryan,
they
right?
are? Matt Ryan, yes. Yeah. I would put Matt Ryan over Who the fuck are we talking about? Joe
Joe
Flacco.
Flacco.
Exactly. That's why he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. No, Joe Flacco, or not Joe Flacco, Matt Ryan. He's done more, and he has more. Like his statistics are a lot better. He'll be in the Hall of Fame. I think Matt Ryan will get in the Hall of Fame, but not Joe Flacco.
You think Matt Ryan gets in?
62,000 pass yards, 381 touchdowns. That's a lot better. Like that's pretty drastically better than Joe Flacco's.
Well, I'm not saying Matt Ryan's not gonna get in. I think Joe Flacco's one of those guys that is, like I said, he's a very fringe because he never was the exceptional quarterback. Does Joe Flacco have an MVP?
I don't think so. No. I don't even think he was Super Bowl MVP. That was Ray Lewis, wasn't it?
Yes, it was Ray.
Yeah, no. Joe Flacco doesn't have any MVPs, but Matt Ryan does. So, and I think what was it? What? He had a 10-year span really of being a starter like NFL quarterback.
It's not terrible.
I don't think it's
not
not terrible. I don't think that's long enough for him to be considered in the Hall of Fame.
I mean, technically, if you want to be technical here, Matt Ryan should have been a starting quarterback after 2019, which is the same year that Joe Flacco went down.
Yeah, but he still was. Like, I won't even include this season from the Colts.
He was, but he really probably shouldn't have been, if we're being honest here.
Yeah, I don't know. He still was though. And you can't
actually take
out.
it from him, but at the same time, you kind of want to take that from him. Yeah, no, Joe Flacco is one of those very interesting guys, and whether or not he's going to be or not, I think he's like I said, it's one of those things where if he makes it in, it's because he's in a weaker Hall of Fame class and it's a second or third ballot guy. But I don't.
He's gonna have to be in like the weakest of the weak. Like,
I guess
I don't know. That's my opinion.
We'll find out in a couple of years, I guess.
I mean, that depends on when he retires. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. I thought I had something else for you because we're a little actually short on time. We still got 15 minutes we're supposed to talk here.
I mean, if we have a bit of a shorter episode, it's.
I know. I thought I had something for you though outside of Joe Flacco.
That's a good question. I don't know.
Oh, that's what I wanted to talk about. So after the 49ers lost yesterday, it seems very, very likely that the 49ers defensive coordinator is going to Texas to be the head coach.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing things that a deal could be done by Tuesday or Wednesday. So by the time this gets posted, it could be done today or it could be done tomorrow. He basically just needs to get his affairs in line with the 49ers and then get the contract they want, and that deal is done. Also, an NFL rumor, Tom Brady most likely not going to Miami. I'm hearing that very heavily, that Miami is all in on Tua. And I guess at that point, it just depends if Tua is healthy enough to go. And if Tua's...
True, because I did see a thing. Tua
he's still in concussion protocol.
Yeah, he's still in the concussion protocol, which that.
Let's see
month and a half in the concussion protocol?
Yeah,
that's not saying. That's not a good sign. Not good sign at all.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if I can find anything on Tua, but it seems as though that Miami is sticking with Tua. They are not going to be pursuing Tom Brady. So that brings the question, Tom Brady, if he returns, where does he go? Because like I said, I don't see him going to the Bucs. And I could see maybe the argument for the 49ers still. Just because, like, with all
especially now with their whole quarterback situation, maybe.
I can still see an argument for the Raiders. I can still, because they have Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams, Darren Waller. They've got weapons for him. Offense could use a little bit of work, but they've got weapons for him. They've got a decent they've got a good defense. They're not the best defense in the world, but they've got a good defense. I could see an argument there. I could see an argument for the Raiders. I could see the Jets trying to get him. I don't see him going back to New England at all.
Another one I saw, possibly Tennessee.
Oh.
Yeah, but I've seen some stuff about Tennessee as well. Because they have their own questions at quarterback, you know.
A year
I can't even think of his name right now.
Ryan
Tannehill.
There you go.
right? Like he not the best quarterback. He's just kind of there to hand the ball off to Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
But would Tom Brady want to go to Tennessee? Because Tennessee doesn't even have any proven receivers, and their offense is shaky outside of Derrick Henry.
Yeah. However, maybe that's what Brady wants. Is maybe Brady wants a team where he can go in and have a run-heavy offense where he doesn't have to be the main guy, and he just has to be the guy that steps up when they need him.
I mean, yeah, but you need receivers to throw to.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing with him. Like whenever he has to throw the ball, he has to have a good receiver that can catch the ball, which he could always, the whole Tom Brady effect. You go wherever more a lot of the veteran presence will come to that team, which could happen.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, I think it's very interesting. I think especially after last night's game, the 49ers question is a bigger one. Actually, I just like to search people's name. We're talking about them on Twitter. Colin Cowherd, literally 30 minutes ago, was talking about Tom Brady and needing to have that discussion about Brady going back to San Fran because they need that solidified quarterback.
Yep.
And because Brady, is he under contract this year, or is he free agent?
I
can't
believe he's a free agent.
I could have sworn.
I think he's a free agent.
He's a free agent. So it's not something where you'd have to send, a Brock Purdy or Trey Lance to the Bucks to get him.
It's just going to cost about $27 to $30 million probably.
Yeah, and Tom Brady's always been one of those guys, believe it or not, to take one of the team-friendly contracts. He's always kind of done that. Even his contract that he had this year was only $15 million.
True.
So, I mean, you could probably, if you could get him on a $12 million deal, even if you start him and you tell him, hey, we'd like you to teach these young guys, and then next year we make that decision about do we go with Brock Purdy or do we go with Trey Lance? And hopefully they've learned something from Brady in that year, and maybe you've even won a Super Bowl in that year. Especially both of those guys are still in rookie contracts. Brock Purdy's costing you the minimum. It's definitely something that maybe should be opened up and should be considered.
Oh, I'm sure they're going to consider it fully. They're also going to consider Aaron Rodgers too.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers is going to be a consideration because I don't know if you saw this yesterday, but news broke that it seems as though Green Bay wants to move away from Aaron Rodgers, and it appears as though Rodgers has been informed about this.
Yep.
So this year's quarterback carousel is going to be fun. I think you've got Jimmy G, you've got Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, you've got Lamar. Yeah, you've got
possibly Lamar.
Yeah, so that's all going to be a big question mark. But you've got 5 elite quarterbacks. I'm still calling Jimmy G elite. He's good enough to be able to make a team. He's good enough where if you put him on that Jets are going to make the playoffs next year.
I can see that.
You've got those 5. I'm sure there's more that we can't even think of off the top of our head in terms of quarterback carousel. I'm just trying to think of literally anybody at the moment. And those
are the biggest names, honestly.
I think so too. And you've got teams that are looking for this year's quarterbacks. Like I said, going to be interesting. It seems as though Carolina is now all in on a first round number 1 overall pick with Frank Reich being there. It looks like they're trying to get the number 1. Houston's going to want number 1. The Colts are going to want number 1. There's going to be a lot of teams that are going to want to do something at the quarterback position. And with sort of the finite amount of quarterbacks that are worth taking in the first round, there really only being 3 of them. Especially now that Samson Bennett just got arrested in Florida. I don't know if you saw that or not.
Dude, he got arrested for public intoxication. That's not going to hurt his draft.
You'd be surprised. If they can find anything to...
He wasn't even going in the first round anyways.
He was a third-round guy. But then you do something like that, and the NFL, you don't think something like that, but he could end up falling to round 5 now because of it. And so
could be the next Tom Brady. Falls deep in the draft and just becomes the next...
Yeah, but Tom Brady was never even looked at as a third-rounder. Tom Brady and Brock Purdy have been an anomaly that you don't see.
The Brock Purdy thing, I'll wait a little bit to say he's an anomaly.
Yeah, I definitely like what I've seen from him. I hear your dog talking to you, but yeah, it's a very interesting conversations if you have with the quarterback position because, like I said, especially those teams that feel like they're close. Maybe the 49ers say we don't even want Brady, but we want to trade up and get someone else. Maybe the 49ers get in their conversations.
They don't have. No, there's no way they do that.
Maybe you never know.
There's no way they're gonna have 3 rookie quarterbacks on their fucking roster.
You're right. They won't. They'll end up trading 1 or 2 of them. They'll reevaluate and they say, okay, we're gonna run with Lance or we're gonna run with Purdy, and they're gonna take a gamble. There are so many question marks to be had this offseason when it comes to quarterbacks that it's kind of insane. I hope that wasn't too loud when I just did on the mic.
Nah, you're good, man.
Okay, that wasn't too loud. Good, because that sounded loud in my headphones. But
all right, well, let's move on to the unprofessional moment of the week. You want to go first?
no, because I don't have anything ready.
Oh shit. Okay. So, my unprofessional moment of the week. So during last night's game, we all saw the final penalty by Joseph Osai when he pushed Mahomes as he was already out of bounds. So as the Bengals were walking back into their locker room, some of the Bengals defenders were like basically shitting on him, saying like, "This is my last season, man. Why the fuck you touch the quarterback?" And I gotta feel bad. I feel bad for him, man. He's 22 years old. You know, in accidents happen. You know, it happens.
And he was
biggest stages.
He was super emotional on the sideline. The guy that kept panning to, I don't know if anyone actually noticed, it was him. And you feel bad for the guy because it wasn't. It's so I can't really give it to him. I give it to the teammates that were saying stuff like that, and I could be saying
that's what I'm giving it to the teammates that said it to him. Like, you're not supposed to shit on your teammate, especially during that time. You're supposed to be there for your teammate and console him and say, hey,
it could have happened to anybody.
It could have happened to me. Accidents happen. Don't let this bring you down, man. The Bengals will be back. Oh
yeah,
they're a very young team. They're gonna be back, but
Burrow, I think Burrow's gonna end up having that Brady effect where he's gonna bring in greatness because everyone's gonna want to play with Burrow. He's
exactly.
Tony Romo was really upsetting me yesterday. He was making a lot of stupid announcements and saying stupid things like over the shoulder pass. No, that was a high point pass. Like, come on, you were in the league. He's going down on my rankings that I just gave 2 weeks ago. But yeah, no, absolutely. And like sticking with that same game and sticking actually with the same team, my unprofessional moment of the week goes to Eli Apple. His Twitter rants, his Twitter explosions.
Yes.
As soon as I looked it up, I was like, wait a second, I know exactly where I'm going here. It's going to Eli Apple. I mean, you talk that much stuff and then get absolutely burned multiple times. I don't know.
You deserve the heat that you're getting.
I don't know what his stat line was this week.
Not the best.
He had 6 combined tackles, 1 assisted. I'm trying to find more in-depth stats. Come on, give me this real fast. Okay, maybe I'll find it. Here we go. This game's.
I don't know.
I can't find anything right now. Oh god. I'm literally only seeing tackles. I want more than that though. Come on.
So, did you see Brittany Mahomes' tweet?
No. What'd she tweet?
Brittany Mahomes tweeted Cancun on 3.
Listen, she's been quiet, but I like that. Good for her.
She has been quiet, but they got a little rowdy last. I saw a couple TikTok clips.
Yeah, Travis Kelce coming in saying Burrow had my ass, and then calling the mayor of Cincinnati a jabroni.
Yeah,
straight up taking it from The Rock. As soon as I heard it, my parents were both like, "What? What was that all about?" And I was like, "Well, mayor of Cincinnati was also calling it Burrowhead, so." Know your role and know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni. So I think The Rock said it a little bit better, but Travis Kelce was there with the references yesterday. He was on there. Yeah, he was on one. I love that for him. But my professional definitely goes to definitely without a doubt goes to Eli. You can't be talking that much crap and then not perform very well. He got burned quite a few times.
Yeah, so I want to throw in a bit of an honorable mention one here. Did you see before the Niners-Eagles game with Joey Bosa?
With Joey Bosa?
With Joey Bosa.
No.
So Joey Bosa was dressed up in a bunch of 49ers gear, obviously there to represent and show support for his brother. So before the game, as they were walking into the stadium, he was getting heckled by Eagles fans, basically saying like, "Oh, what time's your game today?" And like giving him shit because obviously they didn't make it far in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And he was chirping back and saying like, "Oh, I'm fucking rich and you're poor," and this and stuff like that. It's like,
listen, I support chirping back. I get it that they're fans and sometimes you get hate. Like the players, I am not the exception to this. I heckle players all the time. All right, especially
I do too.
If I'm in the outfield of the Cubs, we're called the bleacher bums. We're the worst fans in baseball for a reason, all right? So trust me, I'm out there heckling them too. I still remember one game we went to where we kept I can't remember who it was, but it was the right fielder for one of the teams we went to who thought it was.
It was a Braves.
Was it a Braves? It was. He thought it was third.
Not
out.
the Braves. Brewers.
But yeah, he thought it was out number 3, and started running back to the dugout. He heard it the entire game. AAA doesn't even want you AA. So trust me, I get it. But when they respond, it's never like a good response. It's always like, I'm rich, you're poor. Like, okay, how about you actually just? I'm like, I know I'm coming at you with stuff like actually critiquing your game and stuff like that, but come at me and like do something a little bit better than that. So like, I get the honorable mention. I get like, trust me, I have no problem with them chirping back. I love when they chirp back, but actually like chirp back if that makes sense. Like,
yeah.
Duh, you're rich, I'm poor. Like, you're in the NFL. Congratulations. Do you want a Captain Obvious sticker? Like, what
Right.
what do you want for that? That's how I feel about players chirping, though. I love player chirping. I think it's absolutely deserved. I think we talked about earlier, picking a fight. I saw someone say that their rule that they would make is they would make it so that way once a year, every player can pick one fan out from the crowd and fight them. And so like it kind of goes back to the chirping. So obviously they're gonna pick the biggest chirper and like, all right, come on down, let's fight or whatever. But like, yeah, no, I absolutely I love it. Them chirping back, but just chirp back a little bit better, I guess. Like, your chirps aren't quite there. I know you hear better chirps than that, so just repeat some of them. Like,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that does it for today's show, doesn't it?
That's what it looks like. Yeah, I'm not seeing
Nothing else on the docket.
No, I'm not seeing a whole lot of stuff as far as like breaking news or anything right now.
Nothing breaking yet. It's kind of quiet day out here for the Twitter.
As far
actives.
as news, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of disappointing. I'm not gonna lie.
Yep.
But all right, so that's gonna wrap up today's show. We hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you follow us on all social media: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Spotify, iHeartRadio. We're not on Apple Radio yet, but our Apple Podcast. We're working on getting an Apple Podcast. We're working on getting the TikTok going and the Instagram. Love the dog. Yeah. Until then, actually, you know what? Hold on. I'm gonna make a little poll for you guys. If you made it this far, tag us on Twitter or Instagram or wherever you see this. Even if you're on Spotify listening, I'll try and add a poll. What would be the one rule that you would remove from the NFL? I want to pose that to the fan. Anyone who's listening, tag us in whatever social media you're on. What would be the one rule that you would remove from the NFL? You got anything else to add? I feel like that's a pretty...
That's about it, man. You know, not a bit of a shorter episode, but
not too much. We're 53 minutes. We went over like 10 minutes last time, so we're good.
Evens out.
Yeah. All right, but until then, we will see you guys next time. Adios.
See ya.